One of the main priorities of our world is decoupling economic growth from environmental degradation. This implies that an increase in our standard of living should not likewise increase our use and consumption of natural resources. Responsible consumption and production is the 12th goal of 17 Sustainable Development Goals set up by the United Nations since 2015. In order to maintain the sustainability of nature in the future, which covers all aspects of life, ensuring good use of resources and sustainable production patterns. This goal is vital as we work to increase access and standards of living while creating a more sustainable world.
SDG 12 has 11 targets. The first 8 are outcome targets, which are implement the 10-year framework of programs on sustainable consumption and production patterns, achieve the sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources, reducing by half the per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels, and the reduction of food losses along production and supply chains, including post-harvest losses, achieving the environmentally sound management of chemicals and all wastes throughout their life cycle, reducing waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse, encourage companies to adopt sustainable practices, promote public procurement practices that are sustainable, and ensure that people everywhere have the relevant information and awareness for sustainable development. The 3 means of achievement or targets are support development countries to strengthen their scientific and technological capacity, develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable development impacts, and remove market distortions like fossil fuel subsidies that encourage wasteful consumption.
In a nutshell, while the world's population is constantly growing, SDG 12 is about decoupling economic growth from environmental degradation, increasing resource efficiency, and promoting sustainable lifestyles. There can be no sustainable development without sustainable consumption and production first. According to the UN, if human activity continues at current rate, we will need 3 planets to sustain our lifestyle. By 2050, we consume more resources than the planet can generate, and growing rates of pollution and waste only exacerbate the problem. Commercial and residential energy use is the second most rapidly growing area of global energy use after transport. Agriculture and textile industry are the biggest polluters of clean water in the world. By 2020, the OECD forecasts a 32% increase in car ownership and expects a global air traffic to triple, which inevitably result in more CO2 emissions. And around a third of food produced in the world is wasted each year, while millions of people suffer from hunger, mainly in third countries.
First, sustainable consumption is the possibility that while responding to our basic needs, it is still possible to go for choices with minimal effect on the global environment and the circumstance of people in the future. For example, one can follow the 5 R's for purchasing something. 1. Refuse. Do I truly need this to produce? Do I want this much? 3. Reuse. Do I need to discard it now for repurpose? Would I be able to use this for another purpose? 5. Recycle. Would the materials be able to be utilized for something different? Nevertheless, by far, most of us do not incline towards the most sustainable choice when buying services and products. The value-action gap is the error between one's ability to act for the climate and the genuine activity taken by that individual. Second, sustainable production alludes to the producer's liability not to deplete natural resources in the ecosystem through their activities. Since the global population is growing and developing, our need for goods, even the most essential ones, is expected to grow. In contrast, the capacity of our natural resources stays limited and continually decreases. Alarmingly, we are producing more waste, particularly in large areas. This is because our economy depends on a linear production pattern. A product's life cycle begins with the extraction of resources, which are then changed, solely used, and ends up as waste.
From 2017 to 2020, 83 countries, territories, and the European Union shared information on their contribution to the implementation of the 10-year framework of programs on sustainable consumption and production patterns. In 2019, the amount of e-waste generated was 7.3 kilograms per capita, with only 1.7 kilograms per capita documented to be managed in an environment. The annual rate of growth in e-waste recycling over the past decade was 0.5 kilograms per capita, which will need to increase more than tenfold if all e-waste is to be recycled by 2030. As a result of decreased fuel costs, subsidies for fossil fuels fell to $431.6 billion in 2019, reversing the rising trend from 2017 to 2018, due to the decline in demand due by COVID-19 mitigation initiatives and the oil price shock experienced in 2020. Fossil fuel subsidies are likely to fall substantially. In 2020, 136 policies and 27 implementation activities were reported, bringing the total number up over 700. As of December 2020, 40 countries and territories had reported on sustainable public procurement policies and action plans, promoting more socially responsible purchasing practices and sustainable supply chains.
In conclusion, we need economies to function, and for that, we need responsible product manufacturers as they have direct impact to the products they sell and design. Correspondingly, we, the consumers, are just as vital and should be responsible as we make choices every day to buy one product over another. And we must bear in mind the question, what do we value and what is the actual cost of what we consume? Because everyone deserves to live in a world where we produce just enough of what we need.